Now, joining us is Oliver McGee. He's an aviation specialist and a professor of mechanical and civil engineering. Joins us live from Lubbock in Texas. Thank you very much for being with us. So this Boeing 777 appeared to have landed on its belly. What do you think happened here? What could have caused this crash landing?
Well, as your segment said before, it's a possibility there could be a mechanical breach in the landing gear. But there's also a lot of factors that could be played here, and we will find that out once we get the black boxes and the flight data recorders to really hear exactly what was going on in the flight performance and the cockpit conversations, which was probably very, what we call a hot cockpit. But most likely it could possibly be a wind shear. There was weather patterns at the airport that suggest that there was crosswind wind shear possible in the region. And basically that is really a difference that comes into the wind of the aircraft and the airspeed. It changes the airspeed radically. So imagine that they're trying to do a go-around, then all of a sudden they start up the thrust and pick up the speed in the air in the engines, and then all of a sudden you retract the landing gear, and then all of a sudden you get a really large a crosswind or even a frontal wind that changes the airspeed, particularly when you're taking off and you're at minimum speed, and then all of a sudden the aircraft stalls and then it slams to the ground on its belly before the landing gear can be retracted or re-extended again, and then all of a sudden it breaks off, and then it hits the wing, the right wing, and tears off the engine. Then you have yourself a very catastrophic fire.
Right. So because that would explain then some reports suggesting that the crew were making a normal rather than an emergency approach when perhaps air traffic controllers told them to abandon the landing and start climbing again.
Absolutely, Folly, because what happens is they're viewing all of this, and so we'll see that later once the investigation takes place, because there's not very much footage out there that could see exactly for experts to see what was happening in those last moments. But the way you described it could most likely happen in that particular situation. And more importantly, once the fire was engulfed, then it became a different event of trying to evacuate the passengers and also for the pilots to really land it in a belly slide. That's also a really heroic task in itself to keep the hull together, and so then people were able to evacuate.
It is quite, I mean, the pictures that we're seeing are quite spectacular. I mean, when you look at the fire and just, you know, it's quite spectacular. And to think that everyone came out of that airplane with some injuries, but everyone came out alive. What struck me, though, was the fact that some passengers, I mean, even though this was an emergency evacuation, some passengers were carrying their luggage, their belongings. Who's at fault for that?
Well, FAA mandates that evacuation takes place in 90 seconds.
Right.
And oftentimes when passengers are not reading the cards or hearing the instructions that says you only take yourself out of the aircraft, not your belongings. Because when you take your belongings outside the aircraft while you're trying to evacuate, you're obstructing the path of evacuation for those behind you as well as those in front of you. This is not an exit like if you're basically getting at your destination and you're trying to grab your luggage. You need to know a path to leave the aircraft at the beginning of the flight when instructions are given to you, and you need to follow that path to the exits, and you need to go, 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 go. That's why the flight crew is shouting, go, 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 go. And the flight crew here in Emirates Airlines needs to be very, very congratulated because they got all 300 people out. They may have taken longer than 90 seconds, maybe 2 minutes or so, because we found that same time in Aviation 214 on July 16, 2013. It was the same type of scenario. All the passengers got out safely, and the flight crew was congratulated for getting all of those people out safely and unharmed. This Emirates is the world's best airlines, according to Skytrack today, and they proved that today by getting all of those passengers out safely.
Certainly it was a lucky escape for those passengers and crew. Thank you so much, Oliver McGee, for joining us there and giving us your insight on this. Oliver McGee, aviation specialist, joining us there live from Texas. Thank you.
Thank you.
The U.S.